I am a terrible person. I simultaneously enjoy Queen Naija's music and I like the running gag that she's responsible for everything just going wrong in the world. She's essentially what you would get if there were social media in the Garden of Eden right around the moment that Eve decided to eat that fucking apple and people live tweeted about it. That's what you get. Nonetheless, we are dedicating this episode to a Queen Naija type beat. It is a late night for R&B type beat with guitar, of course, and all that goodness. And I think it will be a good fit for a guest first from Bryson Tiller or Black. Let's go. Good folks, what is up and how are you doing? This is your favorite struggling R&B producer, Valentine the Plug, and we are in Logic Pro X, and it's a beautiful day to break down this beat. It's an even better day to break down this dark Queen Naija type beat, which I think would feature. Let's commit to Bryson Tiller. I think it will feature Bryson Tiller. So you can see I've got my guitar recording right here. I've got my bass from the Mini V right here. The piano V2 putting in that work as the first layer. Omnisphere putting in that work as the second layer. The Mellotron right here from the V collection playing a little bit of a licks. And of course my vocal sample right here and another vocal sample right here. So I kind of really went all out in terms of layering the sample because I did a lot to get that vibe. I'm working with like a soundscape, a texture, something that really invokes that late night feel, like you're longing, like you're dealing with emotions, that kind of stuff. So without further ado, let's get into the chord progression. So this chord progression is as vanilla as they come, and what I mean by that is that it's a simple chord progression. It's accessible, it's reoccurring, it's immensely popular. It is one of the bread and butters. It's a chord progression that goes da 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 with a climax right at the end, and after that you can add some passing chords to really just go back to your logical beginning. Of course, it is the 4-5-6 chord progression in major, of course, and for this one I am starting off with my inverted C major 7 chord right here, which is my 4th degree, and that goes to my inverted D dominant 7 chord right here, which is my 5th degree, and that lands beautiful on my 6th degree, which is a minor 9th chord, which is an E minor 9th chord right here. So that's the peak. So if we have to compare it to climbing a mountain, this is the summit, this is halfway, and this is the peak, and after the peak you need a steady descent. So we invoke that steady descent by going to the first. The first chord is always an amazing chord to return to. It's always a good chord to resolve to make sure that the listener feels that the chord progression is heading back to the beginning, cycling back to the beginning, like you're getting a smooth and steady descent. It's like jumping down for a parachute and having an immensely soft landing, like something cushioning you or whatever. That's exactly what that first chord symbolizes. That's the function of the first chord, a logical beginning and a logical end. So from that 6th degree, we're going to my 1st degree, which is a G major 7 chord, of course, right here. And then we actually cycle back to what is an inverted version of our 1st degree. So that's basically it. So 4, 5, 6, 1, 4, and we play that 4 in unison as we start the second phrase again. So this is my chord progression, and it works amazingly well. So heading into Omnisphere, I wasn't looking for anything particularly saucy, so of course I did wanted to like make the sample super vibey, but I stumbled across the patch that I used to use a lot back in the day, which is the analog tremolo piano, which sounds like this. So having found that patch, being inspired by that patch, I decided to send it to a mixer track, and on it I've got Space Out, basically just to really add some spaciness, some waviness, really add depth to it, kind of customize it so that it becomes very fitting for this kind of beat. So Space Out is an amazing plugin by Baby Audio, by the way. I love all the shit they make, honestly, but this one, très magnifique. So moving on, I've got my piano and I've got my Omnisphere, and here comes the Mellotron from the V collection. I really wanted to add some melodies of my own because I thought that was kind of, getting into kind of like a slump. I was going through the motions. I decided to challenge myself, find an instrument which I feel could, spice it up just a little bit. So I got this guitar patch from the Mellotron, and now my sample is sounding like this. Now, there's a lot I can tell you about how I like to use vocal samples, the diverse ways I like to use vocal samples, of course. You can see I've done a lot of processing actually. I think on it I have an equalizer by Ozone, I've got my chorus effect, I've got Crystallizer by Soundtoys, GOAT plugin, honestly. I've got the dynamics, of course, to tame it just a little bit, and I think I've got the imager to make it wide. Because if I combine these two stacks of vocal samples together, I get a cool, real haunting effect. Really contributes to the kind of darker vibe that I was going for with this beat. I think that in terms of, if you really want to listen to a beat for reference, you can check out Streets by Doja Cat, get an idea of the feel that I was going for. I mean, the bass line is similar, it might invoke a similar feeling to you. But what I'm gonna do is just play the entire sample with the guitar right now so you can hear everything in context. So when it comes to these darker R&B beats, I think that a lot of us are partial or are inclined to go for the growling moog bass in Omnisphere or the crowling bass in Analog Lab. I decided to take out the Mini V, which is of course the patented instrument for these darker basses, of course. I took out the Gentle Giant patch, which has just enough growl, just enough deep low, and just enough harmonics for me to use. And I play like a super simple bass pattern with super simple notes, kind of almost following the root notes, but deviating from it a little bit. So, this is what my bass line sounds like in context. So lately, one of the things that I really love doing is just setting my BPM at 90, which is kind of like the boom bap sweet spot. And 90s R&B had a lot of boom bap influences, so a lot of the drum beats that we heard back in the 90s, but also for a good deal in 2000s R&B up until 2004 before we transitioned onto more trap drums, of course, is well, what was I going to say? Anyways, what I was trying to say is I made a conscious decision for this drum beat, and I took these from a Kyle Stemberger kit, I think, and this is the drum beat that I've been playing. What I really like about this drum beat is the switch up. In the beginning, you're hearing the snare on the 3 as opposed to the 2, and then it goes back to what you're used to, which is the kick on the 1, snare on the 2, kick on the 1, snare on the 4. So yeah, I really like that. I really think it contributes, and I like the switch up. And often I just play with the arrangement to make sure that the listener isn't able to predict what's really going on. A slower drum beat like this also really contributes to the vibe of the beat because you get a more deliberate feeling, and I think that it really inspires the artist to approach this song as a conversation between two people or something really intimate, something that really forces you to take the time to listen to the lyrics and really just take the vibe. Really realize the kind of vibe that you're getting for yourself. So these are those little intricacies that I like to think about when I make beats. And that concludes our little breakdown of a late night R&B beat, a little bit of a darker vibe for Queen Naija and Bryson Tiller. Now, if y'all feel that this is a good fit for them, let me know. But if you enjoyed this video, you should most definitely let me know. And I most definitely hope to see y'all in the next video. Peace.